Okay, so we are live. So I just got the message that the broadcast is live. So a big hello to all the members of Parent to Parent group. Today we have Asma Riyaz with us. She's
Yeah.
a beautiful mom and a pretty mom, as we all can see that she's looking very pretty and nice, beautiful.
Thanks,
Asma
Jyoti.
Riyaz, yeah, Asma Riyaz is a super creative mom of two very talented and creative kids aged 5 and 2. Asma says that the basic fundamentals of teaching my kids is love and intuition that defines my home and my momming technique. My kids teach me to teach. That's a very beautiful thing when you termed it as mommy technique. So, this is called
Yeah.
as momming technique. That's very beautiful.
Momming.
Yeah. And when you said that your kids teach you to teach, that's a very beautiful thing. I think we should be talking about that also. Just to
Thanks,
begin with
Jyoti.
the just to begin with the entire conversation, my first question is because the topic says unresource and unfluff your kids learning. So can
Yeah.
you just talk something about what do you mean by unresource and unfluff?
All right. So when I say unresourced and unfluff, primarily why? Because I feel in today's world, there is so much available, right? From kits of all kinds to books of all kinds to art and craft material. There is so much available. And if you clog your child with too much of it and too many different resources, it is more likely to make your child claustrophobic rather than to give it a direction. So I feel even fluffing means is by the grace of God, if you see an average Indian, today education is so important that that parent really wants to put in every hard-earned penny into the child's learning. So you tend to buy again too much, you know.
Yeah,
Rather, like right from your games, I'm talking to your games, to your hairbands, to your clips, to your clothes, and all that leads to too much. And this is again an evolution that I have seen in myself. When I was a mom of the first child that I had so much of excess and fluff. And then when I gave birth to my son, and I realized that so much excess is eventually making my child confused because there is so much to do. So
true.
for me, unresourced means be more specific into what is the end result you want from a particular toy or a particular book, rather than buying series of things, and I have learned that with experience because my son is a hands me down child. So he has got a lot of hands me down of my daughter. So I know exactly what is a useful thing and what is a useless thing. So probably if you are in a circle or a community, so that is why I like this parent to parent. Because when you have a community or camaraderie and you're there to share either stimulating conversation or to share fruitful resources, automatically the whole group of people are going to parent better maybe. So that is why
Right.
I definitely like to pick up tips even with my mothering, with a mother of today, of what is
Yeah.
today's resources available and what is most sensible and age appropriate for my child with
Mhm.
similar parents in that same age and space. So that is what I mean by unresourced. That is limit down to the exposure.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing, that stuff because the topic itself was saying unresourcing and unfluffing. So just, wanted to have a deep understanding of what you understand by unresourcing. Very rightly said, there are so many things available in the market for kids. As a new parent, most of the times, new parent or new mother is not aware that what a child is looking for or what they
Yeah.
want, right? So how a mother can, get to the point of
Jyoti, I'm
knowing.
sorry. There is some banging. I will have to take a moment. Please. I'm
Sure,
really sorry.
sure. That's okay. So we are just, taking a break for a few seconds. This message is for all the viewers and listeners here of the group. If you have any questions regarding, this particular topic, you can please post the questions in the comment section and we will be answering that.
Sorry, I'm back.
That's okay. That's okay. Come. So I was just, wanting to know a little more about that. That you were the aware mother. You knew what your child is looking for and what you want out of your child. As a new parent, most of the mothers and parents are not aware because they are also in the stage of exploring their kids, and kids also in the
Correct.
stage of exploring what holds
Yes.
their interest and all. So, how to reach at the stage where you get the awareness my child is good in this one, or maybe the other activity, this is the activity which is rightly
All
available
right.
in market for me. How to, get that awareness and how to reach that point?
To reach that point of awareness is a very evolutionary process, because when you are growing up with a child, like when I see my son, I realize suddenly he's into puzzles. So when you understand my child is into puzzles, so when I wanted to introduce animals to him, I gave him
Hmm.
animal puzzles. When I
Okay.
wanted to introduce the concept of a mother and a child, an animal mom and an animal child, I gave him a puzzle to mix the animal mom and the animal child.
Okay.
Or when I wanted to teach him about the animals and their homes, I gave him a puzzle to match the animals with their animal homes. So
Okay.
it
That's
is very important to understand what your child is good at, and that is the first thing that the mother will know first, because the
yeah.
mother is in constant touch with the child. With my elder one, I realized there was a lot of pretend play. She
Mm-hmm.
was imagining things, she was imagining herself as a character, and she would imagine situations. So I started giving her a lot of soft toys, a lot of figurines to
Okay.
actually play with, and actual puppets to put on her fingers, and she would say stories out of a tent window.
Okay. So in that sense,
So
you're working on the creativity and innovativeness of a child as well, I guess.
yes, and that is very important, because when I sit down my child every day on a table and I say, this is a tiger, this is a cub, she's irritated and frustrated because this is not how they want to learn. Besides, when my kids started going to school, school started supporting. School
Uh-huh.
being a good education system and support, what it does is it introduces playway method, and it introduces all these different Montessori methods of learning.
Mm-hmm.
Vance, I want to share this with a lot of mothers who are listening to me. Before the lockdown and after the lockdown, when I talk of resources, it has given me a lot of perspective. I just want to share a little backstory, because I have always been a hands on mother. I have
Yeah.
been very stringent with limiting screen time. I have been ardently disallowing tabs or things like that in the house, with my kids. But then I realized that being too stringent is making my kids irritated of me, you know. So
Mm-hmm.
I have realized how to balance the different resources available.
I
All
think
right.
that's the challenge what today's parents are also facing because in this, crucial time of lockdown, kids are at home with their gadgets around 24/7. They are trying to be on the gadgets, and parents, very, lack of creativity at times. They just, just let it be. If the child is watching,
No,
something on,
again, let us not stress on creative. You
yeah,
don't have to be inertly, like, I cannot draw something very beautiful, very intuitively.
yeah,
So, what is creativity? Like, what is a number logic? When I'm standing and cooking in the kitchen and I tell my son, that, Riaz, can you get me 2 spoons, please? Or Riaz, can you
wonderful.
do me a favor? Can you please remove 3 or 4 plates? Can you just see how many people are sitting in the hall and go and serve them plates, one each?
That's
That is it.
beautiful
That is
and very
what is
simple and easy.
unfluffing.
Yeah, it's a very simple and
So
easy way of making them
very
understand the
simple.
numbers
You
and the
don't have to be
calculation.
very fancy.
Hmm.
Similarly, if we are eating pistas, okay, so we had a lot of pistas and a lot of pista shells. So we didn't throw
Uh-huh.
it, you know,
Okay.
we collected them, and then I gave them some free playtime. So they stuck pista shells everywhere, and Zia made flowers out of it. And Riaz had very, very randomly stuck them. So I made little noses and little eyes, and they were looking like little mice. So
Wonderful.
this is what I mean by unfluff, you know,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
unresourced. We don't need to have these textbooks and worksheets and things like that. When I say unfluff, you can use the basic, like for instance, for grip, I have the kitchen tongs which you hold. You know,
Right, right.
pick
Yeah.
up one thing and put it in another. That is it. That is your
That's
resource.
Yeah, that's a very beautiful way of working with the cognitive skills, hand-eye coordination, and
Yes,
strengthening the muscles.
things like that.
That's a
Yes.
very beautiful share. Thank
So
you
you
for
use
that.
a lot of material which is available in the house. So if my daughter is playing with Uno, she knows how
Mm-hmm.
to play the Uno game.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas with Riaz, I do the same thing that Riaz, can you give me all the red cards from this pile, please?
Uh-huh.
Can you give me all the
Wow.
blue cards from the pile, please?
So
So
when
I
I
try
mentioned
to,
you as a super creative mom, I was not wrong at that, because you are doing things, the similar things in a very different way, and which is quite creative, and which gives that, the sense of more creativeness to a child also. That's really nice and superb. And on the same line, I would like to tell everyone here that Asma makes small videos of all the games, storybooks, what she plays with the kids, and her feedback and reviews of her children on that one, how they are taking it up, and they are really very amazing. Thank you for
thanks,
those
Rajni.
videos, because I think that is the point where I connected with you, because your videos are quite enriching, quite informative for young
Yes.
mothers. They can definitely go and have a look at that videos, and they can give them a small hint of what we are talking about right now, about being unresourceful and unfluffing
Yes.
your kids. And
Again, with under-sourcing, I wanted to add things like brushing your teeth.
mhm,
Generally, for my elder one, I think I brushed her teeth till she was maybe 3 years or something. With my
uh-huh,
younger one, I gave him the brush, I gave him the toothpaste. I did it with
mhm,
him and I told him how to brush his teeth. I gave him his pants and I said, clothe yourself. I said,
mhm,
wear your pants yourself. I said, when you're having a bath, have a bath yourself. So that is again an evolution process, that you move from a mother of one to a mother of two. So it's not necessary for a small toddler, I mean, to have all these fancy terms that we learn. Like, I've not done any PhD, and I've not even done a B.Ed. But
mhm,
the clicking point is that when the lockdown started again, when I was saying about the backstory, I had a
mhm.
very dear friend and she was into homeschooling. So
Okay,
when I joined Insta and I started seeing all these different mothers who were already homeschooling, that gave me a lot of insight of how I should do it. Because, for instance, we are all not teachers, right? We are mothers.
true.
So maybe it's easy for me because my kids are still in the kindergarten stage. So I started, instead of randomly doing subjects and randomly picking up worksheets and chapters and doing with my children, I would request your mothers to understand the end goal. What is the end goal of English language that you want to reach at the end of this week? So
Mm-hmm.
you decide. So when you decide that, and you pick up an appropriate and organic progression of a book, you use the
Right.
book, and don't use too many books, too many things. For instance, like
True.
for me, a lot of mothers are introducing Hindi to their kids. A lot of mothers are doing something else. But I know that if I teach my child Hindi at this stage, I have to first study ka kha ga gha. And I feel
Right.
confuse the hell out of my child. So it's okay. I'm not doing it. When
Mm-hmm.
school will start, it will take care of it. And I'm sure it will. Today,
Yeah.
what I'm passionate about is reading and English. And that is something that I can impart to my child. I'm realistic about it. And so I do it.
Yeah. That's
So
that's
have
that's.
very realistic goals for yourself and your child, because
Mm-hmm.
that reduces all that tug of war that we have with the children. Because I want something out of Zia, and Zia is irritated and she wants to play and she wants the tab and she wants the TV. So that tug of war I need to avoid.
Yeah, that's
And
a beautiful share again. And when you said about homeschooling, my next question was that only, that you are homeschooling your kids, right? And you've shared
yeah,
your thought and the idea behind that. So how homeschooling is going, with your kids, how you are taking it up, and how are your kids, taking that process, and how is it different from regular schooling process? If you can differentiate that,
I'm so
and
glad you
at
brought
this
this up
stage where
because
your
this
kids
topic
are.
is very close to my heart as of
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
Uh, so when I'm just supporting my child and supporting the school.
Mm-hmm.
There is homework which I'm doing. I'm doing a little reading and a little art and craft, and that's that. Now, when I give a gap of a very long period before before I would again start teaching my child, or the school will introduce things to my child, there's too much gap. So
Mm-hmm.
to bridge that gap, I realized that I need to do a homeschooling. So
Uh-huh.
also I first, like I said, I started picking up random things from the internet and Google,
Right.
printing them out, giving it
Mm-hmm.
to my child. And then, like, I'm not a child, I'm not a teacher. So it's very important for every mom to understand that you're not a teacher. You will need a support of a curriculum, a textbook, a workbook to take you through maybe a child who is more than 3.5. Before 3, I would say you will be able to manage with all these different unfluffing techniques that I keep speaking and posting about. All right. Even say for you need to follow a program. So
Mm-hmm.
I started reviewing. Homeschooling comes with a lot of curriculums available online. Please
Yeah.
go check them out. You get previews of them. So for English, I went and I can even give you a couple of names. There's the Good and the Beautiful
That would be great
curriculum.
if you, after this entire
Then,
talk, if you can put it in the message section, so all will be,
yes,
seeing that thing.
yes. So
That
I
would be
can give you a good names of a good programs which are
yeah.
doing good number logic concepts. They are doing English concepts. So slowly, as you work with your child on these concepts, you will be able to understand that there has to be a natural progression. So only if my child, for instance, understands the fact family and number logic of number two, number three, number four, can I progress to fact families of 5? Can I progress to fact families of 6?
Mm-hmm.
This is what a structured curriculum would give you.
Okay.
So, if you are honestly thinking about homeschooling, I would very keenly advise get into a structured program, because
Okay.
Amazon से ये खरीद लिया, Amazon से वो खरीद लिया, 6 टेक्स्ट बुक्स कलेक्ट हो गई है, वो बच्चा भी परेशान है, आप भी परेशान हो, right? So follow one program. So if I'm following the good and the beautiful today, along with that, I'm supporting it with a handwriting program, because I know what I want from my child. My child is reading a 2 alphabet word. I wanted her to progress to a 3 alphabet word, and
Uh-huh.
then to a 4 alphabet word, and then a 5 alphabet word. So what I
Okay.
want you moms, I would urge you moms is that be a sure about your goal. What is the goal of sitting down your child for that half an hour, 45 minutes?
Mm-hmm.
What is it that you want before the 45 minutes and after the 45 minutes?
Okay.
Okay, and what is it that you want from your child on Monday, and what is it that you're expecting out of her on a Sunday?
Okay.
Please
Small
start
targets,
drafting
keeping small.
goals.
Yeah. Got your point. It's about,
Yes,
setting small targets for your kids so that they can achieve them,
small targets
yeah.
for you and your child. And
Right.
even your child will slowly move into homeschooling, because it's
Mm-hmm.
not going to naturally happen. The child is not used to you being the teacher.
Right.
So when I was struggling with Zia, and I
Mm-hmm.
realized, okay, let me breathe. 2 दिन छुट्टी ले लो. Let
Uh-huh.
us reevaluate. Let me
Okay.
reevaluate.
So,
So it
so
is like, even when I'm reading a chapter to her, I have already read the chapter before. I make that effort to read the chapter before and
okay.
make all the finger puppets of the characters. So when I'm reading out the chapter, she is more engaged with me.
Right.
So even with math, you choose what you want from your child. You choose the curriculum. You go online. I will list all these beautiful books that are available.
Yeah, please do that. And
Read,
also,
read Vine's books.
also let us know, because in the group people are saying that they are more curious about knowing more about homeschooling, how to do that stuff. And there is the thing that in Nagpur, are there any groups which are completely dedicated to homeschooling, or are there any parents who can who have their own
Right.
association or a group formed where they are doing their homeschooling?
Very honestly speaking, homeschooling is a alien subject, not only in Nagpur, even if you go to, say, a Bombay or
Mhm.
another bigger city. If you understand homeschooling, what does homeschooling do is, so there are a lot of parents abroad who don't send their children to school at all. It is
Right.
a concept very alien to us.
Mm-hmm.
Even I would want to put it as a limited resourced parent who
Mm-hmm.
would like to child to go to an institution of a school abroad in the US primarily because of
Mm-hmm.
major social differences, the resources available, the thought process, the bringing up, the culture and education system available in public schools. There are a lot of parents who have taken up homeschooling actively for their 3 kids, 4 kids. For me, I can't even imagine having
Mm-hmm.
beyond 2 kids. So they
Right.
have already structured the concept of homeschooling, and these home there are a lot of good moms who keep updating about homeschooling. That is where I started getting my resource. I have a
Okay.
very
So,
dear friend in Nagpur who introduced me to homeschooling, but I do not honestly think that there are many associations or there are any groups as such yet that
mm-hmm.
I have come across locally available in Nagpur. But I
Okay.
am most open to sharing and my resources if anybody who wants to get in touch with me.
Yeah,
Because
that's
these
really
curriculum run up to grade 7, run up to grade
right.
6.
Right. So I think,
Yeah.
we can take this opportunity here to, tell everyone who is homeschooling their kids in the group, can, form a small group under your, maybe in the messages, you can exchange the messages. If anyone of you, the homeschooling parent, wants to get in touch with any other homeschooling parent, so they can, get in touch, get the updates, what they are doing, and, support each other in that prerogative.
Yeah.
So this is a separate thing. And onto the same again, Asma, like you said about, US homeschooling, the culture is different, the upbringing is different. Entire, there are two different, countries altogether with two different kind of
Right.
cultures and all. Now that, most of the parents here, today's generation, they are trying to adopt, or they try to go for this homeschooling thing. Is it going to work in Indian scenario, in our education system? What is the acceptability of this?
Acceptability. So what I have come across is quite a few parents, I think down south. Even my friend told me about this, and I checked. I am following a couple of moms down south who are doing a complete homeschooling curriculum. I would also not do it, in fact. Okay, there are
Mm-hmm.
very few mothers who will take that risk of doing only homeschooling
Uh-huh.
because to understand our society, there is so much coming out of competition,
Mm-hmm.
social skills, peer love, and peer pressure that develop the overall personality of a child. I am perpetually going to be partial to my child, but when she is in a class of 25, she gets an equal sort of attention from her teacher. That is
Mm-hmm.
extremely precious. This is a major reason, a social skill, why we send our kids to school.
Yeah.
You get it? So acceptability of homeschooling in I would not be able to go as macro as India, but even as micro as Nagpur,
Mm-hmm.
I would also not advise it to somebody. This is a
Uh-huh.
support system,
Mm-hmm.
a backup system, a support system, something that comes out of your passion to teach and educate your child a particular subject. For instance, I know my daughter needs to learn Hindi. She needs to learn many different skills that an expert in Hindi will be able to teach her better than I do.
So yeah, I got
Right?
your point here. It's about, subjects going on the higher levels. So on the same note, a
Probably.
Facebook user is asking, till what age would you suggest homeschooling a child? Maybe, your answer absolutely goes, with this question here.
Yes. So, till what age? Maybe for I am an educated mother. I am a chartered accountant. I have fair enough exposure, I would feel, to the language, to math, and I would be
Mm-hmm.
able to teach my child maybe till grade 1 or grade 2, and then
Mm-hmm.
support my child beyond that. I do
Uh-huh.
not think I would be able to take the entire responsibility on my shoulders. So that is what I tell you when it comes to homeschooling in India and Nagpur. This is my opinion, personal opinion, that the entire development of the child comes with different aspects of the child's personality development. You have elocutions and debates. There is only so much that I can debate with my child at
Mm-hmm.
home, right?
Right.
So this, I would say, homeschooling is a support mechanism, And what I was talking of organic progression and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
What happens is, like, for instance, for English, there is a spiral, um, there is a spiral model of educating. So what happens in a spiral model is that I cannot all the time first say that, okay, Zia, you learn all your sight words, and then tomorrow we will start all the phonetic learning after you master your sight words. No, it has
Mm-hmm.
to be spiral, it has to be revisionary, it has to be a little of
Okay.
this, a little of that. So if that is the
Okay.
model that I want, I need
Mm-hmm.
to go look at curriculums, see how the curriculum is progressing. Okay, this fits for me and my child. This fits for
Okay.
my intellect capacity and my child's intellect capacity. When it
Mm-hmm.
comes for math, I want the concept of mastery. So after she masters one concept, I want to move to the next concept. After she masters number 5, I want to move to number 6. So like I said,
Okay.
these concepts you become familiar with very slowly and very gradually as you start picking up curriculums, as you do this with your child very consciously.
Mm-hmm.
So your child
Yeah.
is used to कि okay, 1 घंटा मुझे पढ़ाई करने की है. I have to study for this 1 hour with my mom. So that it's a natural progression that takes a little time to adjust.
Yeah.
And when it comes to creativity, please don't go and say that, okay, today I will bought so many X boxes. You get these
Uh-huh.
box kits and all. What are you doing? Are you buying a box which is teaching about space? But are you following up with talking to
Right.
your child about space beyond that completing of that art and craft?
Right. Right. Point.
So
Absolutely, point there.
वो बॉक्स आएगा, वो एक्सक्रेट बोलते हैं उसको, something is calling it a box, something is, or all these fancy boxes. That's what
Yeah.
I'm saying. Unfluff, because too much fluff. This is a morality that again I am trying to work on,
Exactly.
and that is something that my mom has always told me to be grateful. So I am also trying to work with my daughter more so, because like I
Mm-hmm.
said, she comes with 2 sets of grandparents, 1 set of great grandparents, and she's been blessed with one more set of great grandparents for the first 3 years of her life.
Lovely.
So you can
Lovely.
imagine the access available for that child,
Yes.
not only
Yeah.
in terms of things, but in terms of love, in terms
No.
of sympathy, and all of that. So there is not so much gratefulness I feel in that child. So I
Mm-hmm.
feel when I limit all that excess and we start with a prayer perhaps before every chapter, it tells her or teaches her to slowly, I want to work on her being grateful. This
Mm-hmm.
is another thing I wanted to discuss with Jyoti,
Yeah,
you,
because
because you
that,
are also into infinite spaces.
yes.
So
So that,
I like to tell my daughter sometimes that, Zia, perhaps you're not the most important person in the room. You
right.
know, maybe Dadi
That's
Ma is more
mm-hmm.
important than you. Her needs and likes, her needs are much more important than you. Maybe you were important till you were a year old. Maybe not now. So
True.
this is a
So that,
morality that I'm working with.
yeah, because that was, my next question, which I was about to come on to, but you have already answered that. But we have one question from Facebook user here. Sorry, I'm not getting the name, so I can't take the name. But the question
Yeah.
is, how would you juggle it with household duties?
This is something that every Indian
That's
mother
interesting one.
would like to have an input
Yeah.
about. So, juggling with household duties, I have come to terms with the fact of my realities in terms of my body capacity, my
Mm-hmm.
mental capacity, my me time, So I
That's the
understand
most
how much
important
is
thing,
it
I think.
that I can do. Okay, and
Yeah.
if I have unreal goals for myself and I feel every corner of my house has to be spick and span 24/7, then all
Mm-hmm.
that is going to happen is I'm going to get irritated. I'm going to shout at Zia, I'm going to shout at Riaz, I'm going to shout at my husband, I'm going to shout at everybody. So I realized that I am a chartered accountant, I've studied it, I love it. So I realized consciously, okay, घर का काम इतना करो, इतना करके
Mm-hmm.
दिया, procrastinate करो, and it is okay. Go with the flow. Who is there to
Right.
judge you? You are judging yourself. I am only judging myself, and I am only irritated with myself. So
That's
you do, as
sweet.
you have to prioritize as on priority and urgency. Two things
And
that you have to decide,
yeah, and
for
priorities
yourself.
change every day, moment to moment. So you have to be up with your
Exactly.
priority list always.
Always.
Yeah,
Priority and urgency is how I would put it. Plus,
great.
in fact, I have started going to office because of the unlockdown for just a
Mm-hmm.
couple of hours. I am feeling happier from inside.
Right.
So, what is this live session doing, or what is a community building, camaraderie building, sharing doing? It is
Mm-hmm.
giving me a sort of validation
Mm-hmm.
for what I am doing, say with
Do it.
homeschooling, because there is somebody
Right.
who wants to listen to me, and that is so much to be grateful for. There is
Exactly.
somebody who wants to ask me a question. So
So
when
there is
I
one
try,
more. Yeah, there is
I
one
get
more on the same thing. Sorry, I'm
I
cutting you
get
in
some
between.
self-worth for myself,
True.
and I am happy today. So I can share, or I can transfer that energy of positivity around the people
So
around me.
so true. So true. And I think
So
that is what we
household
most of the time
duties, I would say, just take it easy on yourself. As much
yeah.
as you can do, and you have to do. But trust me, when I post things on Facebook or Instagram or anything, um like I said, because I'm not commercially doing it, I don't have to stage the surroundings, I don't have to mug up blinds with my daughter. What I am doing, I'm naturally capturing and I'm posting. Trust me,
Mm-hmm.
it is just an hour or hour and a half. I am not sitting and studying or homeschooling for more than an hour and hour and a half. At hour and a half is a lot. 1 hour, that is it. So
So
out
it's
of
like,
the 24 hours,
spending your quality time with your child is the most which is, going to contribute into their life as well.
very true. Because that 1 hour I am much happier teaching her than सुबह 10 मिनट, दोपहर को 10 मिनट, शाम को 10 मिनट, वो बच्चा भी टेंशन में, मैं भी गुस्से में. For instance, today I left for office, and because even my kids are used to having me at home because of the lockdown, I I left for office in the morning, and my
Mhm.
son and my daughter were on the cycle. I was leaving, and my again plus point is I have a humongous joint family. I
Mhm.
have three very young sister-in-laws who love to indulge in my kids. I
Okay.
have my kids are growing with grandparents and great grandparents. So value system, root system is much stronger, which is very dear to my heart. Though it
Okay.
gets difficult for you sometimes, you are struggling, but joint family is definitely good for my child. It supports me so much. So that is how I can go to office, because I have a loving and caring mother-in-law who can take care of my kids while I am away, and I am not worried sitting there. So much so that I was leaving for office, my son saw me, he was on the cycle, and he started wailing.
Mm-hmm.
And for that second, I had to decide whether I want to turn and come back home, or I want to
Okay.
continue walking. I could hear my child wailing and calling out mama. And
Mm-hmm.
he was with my daughter, and my daughter keeps saying that Mama, Riyaz is calling you. So it was a difficult moment where I had to decide for myself that do I want to turn around and go to office?
Mm-hmm.
And that also because touchwood, I have the option of maybe staying back at home,
Right.
you know.
Uh-huh.
So these are
Yeah.
the difficult. So when I say this is more difficult for me than picking up a jhadu and doing the jhadu, that is
Yeah.
an easier process. But I realized that going to office kept me sane.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to prioritize your own self
Truly said.
also.
Truly said. Yeah.
Otherwise, you will
So
go berserk.
yeah, on the same note, when we were talking about homeschooling, so there are two questions which popped up from the Facebook users. The one is by Nupur Dhariwal, and she's saying the main reason parents send their kids to school is to get them a little detached from the mom and absorbed from society. Won't homeschooling prevent that? One is this question, and I think second question we can take up in this one as well, where Facebook user was asking that I'm homeschooling my child in this lockdown time, but my child is not willing to have that and wants to go back to his or her friends.
Two things.
So if
Nupur, I
yeah.
totally agree with you. So just a while back, I said that is the primary reason that I would also say homeschooling is a support system. Homeschooling is a backup system and not your primary schooling system. You will eventually send your child back to school because social skills are very important. Peer pressure is very important. Your things like eating out of a dabba makes them so independent and things like that. So, yes, homeschooling will devoid the social skills. Primarily, that is the reason that you do send your children to school and homeschool them in times of lockdown. You do not know when school is going to start. For
True.
instance, my daughter, I don't know, my daughter is not very fond of sitting and learning out of the screen, is what I understood. As much as she would enjoy sitting and watching Frozen, she is not somebody who likes learning on the virtual system. So obviously, I'm apprehensive of school starting 1st July in a virtual classroom. So I
Mm-hmm.
have realized, and I am calming myself, thinking that yes, I'm homeschooling her. I'm doing the best I can. Plus, I'm going to get input from school. Before this, when school was actively there, school was doing, and I was supporting the school. This time, I realized that I am doing it, and the school is going to
School
support
is
me. If she
supportive.
says through it, is good. If she doesn't, I can't pressurize my child to sit in front of a laptop for 1.5 hours to 2 hours, 3 hours. So I
Mm-hmm.
have just learned to take it easy first of all,
Okay.
and that comes difficult because even in this lockdown period I was struggling in between. I was complaining to my husband, I was complaining to my kids, I was complaining to my mom-in-law, I was complaining to my mother who was not with me. So with my complaints 800 miles away, she was getting even more perturbed.
Uh-huh.
So it is in
Right.
fact very recently that I have realized that I need to calm down. So I am only speaking of experience, and that is why I want to speak on topics which are not round parenting, because I'm evolving as a parent every day.
Yeah. Completely
So
taken because your homeschooling is also the experience what you are growing and learning each day
yes,
as it comes. So we understand
yes,
that also, but homeschooling and giving a structured schooling to your child is a very debatable topic, and maybe we can take it up some other time.
yes.
This time there is one more question on this. The Facebook user, I don't know the name again, and is asking, kids also need company and teamwork motivation. Any tips on
Yes.
that? I am doing activities with him, but he is not interested. So maybe we can
All
talk
right.
more about
So this
activity
is
here.
a quick tip, all right, which I want to give. And
Mhm.
I was trying to invite with Zia, but I was not very successful. But you can try it out. So what you do is, if you've gone on any of these fancy summer camps and Zoom classes and Google classes and all those classes, you will realize there is a lot of cacophony, okay, in
Mm-hmm.
between, because there are too many
Yeah,
kids talking together. But you
right.
can try this with a child that your son or your daughter is very friendly with, comfortable with, and the same age group. If you and that mother are also really good friends or whatever, so I have a very good friend, so I tell her, let's come on Zoom on XYZ time, and I will do English with both these kids. So I have only
Mm-hmm.
two of them, and they are friends. And why don't you take up maths with Zia and your child at a particular time? So you can try this out.
Mm-hmm.
Maths is what just now a 5-year-old or a 6-year-old is doing. Maybe 10 plus 10 is 20, and 10 plus 2 is 12. So I'm sure all of us can, most of us aware guys can take it up, right? So you can do that. If you have one more mom who is similar and the same wavelength, to motivate your child and to even do it together as a team. Maybe only two or three of you, like you do a carpool, you do a
Mm-hmm.
study pool. Just come online on Zoom and you have three kids and you're doing English or nothing else. You're playing parcel the parcel. You can just do a virtual passing the parcel, stop the music, play a dance, and things like that. So something that you probably don't have to invest in too much, and it's flexible in terms of time. And the child is with another child whom your child is comfortable with, who the child knows. So
Right.
probably you can take this up in a small number. So even I do storytelling, that is a passion of mine. I do all these lovely props, and I thoroughly enjoy storytelling with these kids,
And
developing
I've,
communication.
yes, and I've attended
When
one of your storytelling session, and let me tell you, everyone here is she's amazing in that, and she makes those big books of storytelling with all the attachments into it. That's really, and hopefully we can have one with you soon.
Yeah, definitely. So, yeah, thanks, Jyoti. So, yeah, so I started these storytelling sessions on Zoom. I tried it because I had that free time at the time, and then I got so busy with work and home. And so, like I said, I targeted and I realized I have to do my household chores. I want to do some office work, plus, I have my kids homeschooling. So, am I going to get the time for my story sessions? And I realized probably not. So, I let it be without guilt tripping myself. So those sessions I used to do on Zoom where I used to have an average of 12 to 13, 14 kids. So I used to
Mhm.
have them on mute because of the cacophony.
Mhm.
So what you can do is that, because some children like to see their friends, and you can try that with two or three kids. Go on Zoom and do it together and see how it works out for your kid.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. How creative and how innovative can you be as a mother or as a parent to bring different things or give different things to your kids as activities and all? It all depends on
Yeah.
us as parents, right? So I think we will, wind up the session. If any other questions pops in, we can definitely take that question. Maybe, 5 minutes more. If Asma, you want to tell parents more about, something, how can they be more mm, you know better connections, how can they form with their kids as a family? And now that you mentioned that you are in a big joint family as well, how are you balancing both your role there with as a mother and as a young mother, and how are you shaping up your kids in such scenarios?
Uh, I don't know whether it goes well for the recipient, but I'm a very blunt and on your face expressor. So, what I'm
Okay.
feeling, I am expressing. I think that helps me to clear my system. I just hope it's not a burden on the person receiving it. So, that
Right.
helps me. That makes
Okay.
me truthful, at least to the people around me. I'm very
One.
open about what I feel. I'm vocal about what I feel. That helps me because I'm an extrovert.
Mm-hmm.
So that is how I clean my system. So it depends for
Wonderful.
each person to person, each scenario and family, and how accepting that family is to you and your mood swings and things
Right.
like that. But don't be too harsh on yourself. Just don't, because it's not possible for everybody to be Ekta Kapoor, perfectly dressed, perfectly looking, perfectly spoken, perfectly mannered daughter-in-law.
Uh-huh.
It's not real. It doesn't happen in real life.
Right.
And
Right. That's right.
just one more thing that I wanted to add is about screen time, because I have
Mm-hmm.
been so stringent with screen time कि बस नहीं करना है नहीं करना है.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, I realized give her that half an hour, 45 minutes, and let it
Mm-hmm.
be leisure. Let
Ah,
it
right.
be treated as leisure,
Mm-hmm.
because if you want to even make that as something educational, it's too much.
It
So you need to bifurcate a leisure
agree.
time for the child too. Let that be the leisure time for the child,
Mm-hmm.
So, give that child also the me time that I'm saying that I wanted. Probably you have to let the
Yeah.
child have it too. You know, if I
Right.
helicopter
Right.
around her, she gets irritated with me.
Right.
That
Right.
is one thing.
Absolutely.
Second thing I wanted to say, which I have just made a couple of notes about, is things like we've played hopscotch, we've played
Okay.
Monopoly, we've played
Mm-hmm.
Guess Who. These are the games that I would really suggest. So even when you're doing your creative, and I'm saying when you're doing your building your spellings or something, you can use those alphabet blocks, you can use Lego, you use
Right.
these things. Don't only say this is a pen, this is a book, this is a pencil, start writing down the spelling of something. You
Mm-hmm.
can be innovative with less and innovative with what you have in the house itself, because that makes sense. Yeah, I think another lovely game that you can do with your child is a treasure hunt. Make little chits, hide it around the house, under a cupboard, under a toy, and tell your child to search for it. Leave clues.
Right.
These are some games that I would suggest parents to probably take up. I don't know. I've just made some more. Yeah,
No,
that I
that's
think more or less that is it.
Yeah, that's a great input giving from your side, coming from your side, about what kind of games a parent can, think of, and how can be they more creative, and how can they be more unresourceful and unfluffing their stuff, so that they can, bring more out from themselves and from their kids. So for our viewers, Asma, if they want to reach out to you for, such details and more inputs from your side, where do they search you? Any information
I
you
am
want to give
available
away?
and open everywhere. You can
Mm-hmm.
just post me a message on Facebook and I will probably reply. And you can post it on parent to parent. So if it is on a more open platform, we are sharing it with more parents. Your question is also shared and my answer is shared. If somebody else has an input, that person can post it. So I think parent to parent is a fantastic platform. I have a lot of detailed videos on everything that I do, the resources, the books,
Yeah.
why homeschooling, and more into that on my Insta page. Probably you can reach up. So somebody writing, I
I'm
don't
not
gadget time my
gadget
son.
time to my son. I mean, I lost the question also. Not
Even
gaming
I
on.
lost the question too.
Yeah. So there was a question. Maybe we can take up the questions. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
TV is just 45 minutes, but at times it makes me guilty because he cannot video game. His friends can play. So maybe it is about, the parents' guilt also talking more about. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe we can, yeah, take up these questions later on, because it's already off the time. So
Yeah.
now everyone is aware that they can find Asma Riyaz on Parent to Parent. They can post in their messages and they can find her on the social media as well. You can put in your questions. You can get some kind of suggestions how to be more creative and how to be more innovative with your kids when you are teaching them or, giving something new. Asma is already there, and we have our Parent to Parent group always there for you for your solutions and your problems. We can, try to handle that stuff. On that note, I thank you, Asma, for your great time and your insight on homeschooling and unresourcing your child with the stuff and how to be more innovative and creative. From the entire parent to
Thanks,
parent team,
Jyoti.
I thank you.
Thanks, Jyoti. I had a wonderful time chatting with you. You make expressing easy.
We try to make the conversation very easy instead of formal. We try to make it, that informal types. So hope,
Yeah.
we try to give something better to our audience here. I hope we did that. And thank you so much for
Thanks.
attending. Thanks, Asma, once again. Bye bye.
Thanks, Jyoti. Bye.
Bye.